Welcome to the Worth It Practice podcast. It's me again, Dr. Leah Kleonsky, and today I'm here to talk you through what it takes to build a 7-figure group private practice. And I don't think it will be what you expect. I'm going to tell you my process in building this practice, what it was like to hit 7 figures, and the reason why I think it became possible for me. And I hope that this is helpful to you if that's something that you would like to build. So the important thing to know is that I never had an initial goal of building a 7-figure practice, a 7-figure practice in quotes. I didn't know that it was a flex. I didn't know that it was something that someone should be specifically trying to accomplish. My goal when I started Thriving Child Center in 2016 was to build a practice that aligned with my value system, which is providing excellence in evidence-based care to kids and families. I truly value competence, and one of my deepest frustrations is when a child comes to us after receiving an intervention that was not useful, and the entire time they could have gotten something more effective. So providing treatment that really, really works, that is effective to kids and families is a deeply held value of mine and the basis for how I built my entire business. And I also needed it to be profitable. I also needed to make an income that could support me and my family and could allow for continued growth. So those were the goals when I started, and they continue to be the goals as this business grows. But I didn't set off saying, someday my business will hit 7 figures in revenue. What is the difference between revenue and profit? Revenue is the amount of money that the business brings in a year or a month, right? Whatever you're counting. Profit is the amount that you get to take home after everything has been paid. And so a lot of people will talk about the fact that revenue is really a vanity number. You could have a business that makes $100 million, and if that business spends $101 million, there's a negative profit. That's business is going out of business. So it really doesn't matter in the end what the revenue of your business is. What matters is whether you can take enough money home to take care of yourself, and whether you have enough money in the business to pay people well for their work and to be able to continue to invest in your business long term. So that's how I've always been thinking about the business. And the entire time I've been growing it and scaling it, those have been the values in my mind. Now, there became an interesting point where I suddenly realized that I could do more. So as I was growing my practice, again, I started in 2016 solo on Saturdays while I worked at a hospital the rest of the time. Pretty soon, I was able to move into it full-time, about 6 months later with a full schedule caseload. And pretty soon after that, I brought on a part-time contractor, another amazing psychologist who is even better than I am and able to do some things I can't do. So she was a great additional person to bring on. And it was just the two of us for the beginning 4 years of the practice. And that was partially because, one, I was having babies. So I had my daughter in 2019, and then COVID hit in 2020, which is actually a moment I was about to expand out. Even though COVID was sort of a boom time for mental health, it was sort of a hard time for child psychologists because a lot of people were very concerned about virtual therapy for children. So when COVID hit and we went virtual, we had no business for 2 weeks at least because no one knew how long it would last or what was going to happen next. So I had to grow things back again. And then I realized that parent-child interaction therapy, which is one of our hallmark treatments, and you've heard me talk about my PCIT Experts Clinic in a previous episode, that treatment is actually a better virtual treatment than in person because of the parent coaching elements of that treatment. So PCIT was actually a better virtual treatment than in person. And that really allowed me to grow and scale the PCIT Experts part of my business in a way that I actually never would have been able to without moving it in a virtual direction. And as I was growing the practice and bringing on other amazing clinicians that I felt really, really good about, I had to keep asking myself, what do I want? Because to be honest with you, I didn't know. I did not know how big I wanted to grow. I did not know what my actual goal was, right? Like my goals were being met. I was bringing in enough profit where I was feeling good and I could support my family. I was doing the work that I wanted to do. We were providing the services that I wanted to provide. I was happy with how things were going, but I didn't know what I wanted it to become. And I remember very distinctly when I had 8 clinicians thinking, is this where I just want to be? Do I just want to stop? And talking to my husband about that, talking to myself about that, really sort of, for some reason, it felt like I had to stop at 8. And 8 clinicians, to be honest with you, was a sweet spot. My admin team could easily run the practice with 8. They were all as busy as they wanted to be. I had plenty of downtime. I was seeing my own client load, but the actual managing of the business was very easy. And one day I was just doing yoga because, again, I had lots of downtime. And I suddenly thought to myself, what have you actually tried? Why did you make up this rule that you had to stop at a certain number? Where did this even come from? And I realized that I hadn't stopped at 8 because I had a solid reason behind it. I realized that I had grown the business to about the size of my parents' practice, which was never a very, very large practice. It was a successful practice. I loved how they ran their business, but it was never like a gigantic business. It was around probably 8 clinicians. And I thought that's interesting that for some reason, that's where I decided to stop growing this practice. And then I made myself do a deeper dive and I was like, what is going on with me? What am I thinking that could be holding me back from growing the practice more? What is happening for me? And then I uncovered a bunch of thoughts I didn't know I had. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy, even if you do it to yourself, can be really helpful. What am I thinking that's affecting me? I had some thoughts I didn't know about. I thought I was bad at business. No evidence for that thought, but that was in there. I'm not allowed to grow any bigger than this. If I really grow bigger, people won't like me. And I also realized that I have had a history of being punished for thinking really big in lots and lots of small ways. And I can think of times when I was in high school pretending I was getting B's when I was getting straight A's because that wasn't cool and I didn't want the negative pushback of being too nerdy. I can think of times where I was told I was too much. I can think of times when I was punished for being too confident. I can think of times where I was disliked for pushing harder. People tell me, slow down. And it's not because I'm moving too fast to be safe. It's because I'm moving faster than they are comfortable with. I'm doing more than they are comfortable with. I'm being bigger. I'm shining brighter than they are comfortable with. So it's not about a safety problem for me. It's about the discomfort from other people. And I had internalized that. And so to other people, it always looks like I am trying 100%. But the reality is that in my business at that time, I was probably only trying 60%. I knew that I had another 40% of real effort before I actually hit my real limits. And I had this thought, what if I tried? What if I really tried? What if I decided I could be as big as I wanted to be? What if I decided that there were no limits on what I could do? What if I trusted myself? What if I actually ran flat out? And that idea was terrifying and really exciting. And that is the year I hit 7 figures. I wasn't shooting for it, but I looked at my numbers and I said to myself, yep, if I have another month like this, I will hit 7 figures in September. And I did. And ever since then, my goal has been to try. I know that sounds so strange, but like giving yourself permission to try, to let yourself be big, to shine, to do things that might make other people uncomfortable, and not to hold yourself back by rules that are not made up by you. That has been so liberating, honestly. And when I do it, I'm scared all the time, but it means I'm excited all of the time. What is the new identity I can embody that will allow me to do this next thing? I ran from it for a while. I didn't think of myself as a CEO. I don't know why I thought I was bad at business. Every year, my accountant would say something to me like, "What are you going to do next year, Leah? Everything you touch turns to gold." And I would think, oh, maybe I'm good at this. And then I would think, no, you can't be. You don't have an MBA. And there's that freedom of saying, you know what? I am good at this. I trust myself. And then being around more and more people who have surpassed me has been really helpful to me. So one of the important things, if you want to hit 7 figures in revenue, you need to be around people who have already done that, where it's not intimidating to them, where they are already embodying a future version of you. One of the most powerful things I've done for myself is join Entrepreneur Organization. And the reason is that you have to have at least a 7-figure business to get in. So everyone has done that. But the people I'm talking to are just so much farther ahead. You get to see other people doing things farther ahead than you have done them. And then you also realize that, and at the risk of sounding arrogant, like it's not that hard. Like the other people doing this are not rocket scientists. They have formulas, they have drive, that's for sure, but there's nothing magic about what they are doing that you cannot also do. Just like there's nothing magic about what I am doing that you could not also do. Like there's no magic. There is a vision, there is strategy, there is confidence, but there are systems that all businesses use. And our mental health psychology practices are not really that different than a dentist practice or an attorney's practice or a chemical plant. Like it is really interesting how I will have the same problems that someone else in a completely other industry has had. And those problems are never really the mental healthy problems. They're structural problems. They're leadership challenges. They are mindset blocks. If you are not ready, if you cannot imagine seeing a 6-figure month, if you cannot imagine seeing a 7-figure total when you look at your revenue reviews, if you can't even imagine doing that, you will not be able to do that. You have to wrap your mind around that identity of someone who can take in that kind of money. And I don't mean that in like a woo-woo, like sort of like just manifest it sort of a way. I'm not a very woo-woo person. I'm a really pragmatic person. Think of myself as a pragmatic optimist. But if you cannot imagine yourself doing it, you won't make the decisions that will allow you to do it. You'll sabotage, you'll pull back. You will find some way of making that not come true because you don't know how to deal with it. Maybe you'll hit the revenue, but you'll spend all the profit, or you'll overpay everyone, or you'll find some way of creating a situation where you'll lose it. That ability to be able to accept that and say, yes, of course I did this. This is aligned with what I've been building all along. That is what allows you to hit the 7-figure mark in any business, and definitely in this kind of business. And so that's what I'm working on all the time, is elevating this. What would happen if I thought like an 8-figure practice owner? What decisions would I make differently in my 7-figure practice if I had that different up-level mindset, right? The problems, the things I'm struggling with in the weeds, they might seem small. So what do? I talk to my friends who are 8-figure business owners, and they have a completely different viewpoint than I do. And their viewpoint is more effective than mine because this is just a step along the way. Isn't that wild? Nobody told me that. I did not know that. And that's why I'm telling you that the most impactful thing you can do is to start noticing what belief systems you have that are holding you back, and to start challenging those belief systems, and to start surrounding yourself with other people who are not going to be naysayers and are going to feel unthreatened by you and are more successful at doing the thing than you are. Because it's easier to ask for help. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame. They can celebrate for you. They can be excited for you, but also they're not feeling threatened. And that is a beautiful place to be with other people. And there's so much learning that can happen. I cannot tell you the level of personal growth that has happened to me in the past 12 months. When I hit 7 figures back in 2024 and then said, oh, wow, what am I going to do in 2025? And part of those things are starting 2 podcasts, a new business, and getting to almost multiple 7 figures this past year. And so now I'm thinking, where will I go next? How can I 10x things? How can I continue to grow? How can I offer more and more and more evidence-based services to children who need them? Because that is really the exciting part. To kind of get back to the core value, today I got an email from the parents of a client that I had seen a couple of years ago. And their email was telling me, hey, the client you worked with is doing fantastic, but there are 2 siblings who need some additional help. And even though I am not accepting any more clients personally, I know the exact therapist in my clinic who will be able to help those clients. And I can get them best fit care today. I can literally get those kids the right fit immediately because I have that ability within my business. I can help them. They don't have to wait. I don't have to send them out and hope that they find someone good or contact someone else and hope they can get them in. I have control. I can say, here are the providers that will really help you. And here's when they're available, and let's get you scheduled now. I can make that happen for this family and for many other families too. And that makes me have a business I am proud of. I would not want to be the owner of a business that I didn't respect. I would not want to be the owner of a business that wasn't having a value system that was aligned. Yuck. I would not want that. I would not want to hit 7 figures in revenue that way. So you can do this too. So start asking yourself, what would I need to think to take in a 6-figure month? Where would I need to be in my life? What would I need to be doing? Who would I need to surround myself with? And then start doing those things. Surround yourself with those people. Start doing the things that would make you get there in your mind now. And then when it happens, you'll be ready for it. And the fact that you're thinking that way will actually get you ready for it earlier. Again, I know, sounds woo-woo, but I promise you it's completely accurate. You have to get there in your mind first if you want to do it sustainably in a way where you are living your best life in the end. All right, I hope this episode was worth it for you. I hope it's a helpful perspective to have. And I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for you in 2026, and I can't wait to see you next week.